and welcome to
Bell on Earth.
My name is Cassidy.
My name is Casey.
And together we are the Bell Sisters. Join us each week as we corrupt your soul
And bring you to salvation.
discussing life, death, and everything in between.
Are you afraid of getting into heaven?
Welcome back to part 2 of our discussion of the Quiet on Set documentary. It does look like there is going to be a part 5 released on April 7th, so 2 days from now, and we are extremely excited, and I don't know if excited is the right word, but we're interested to see what is going to come out in part 5, so tune in for that. But until then, here is the rest of our discussion on this docuseries. Enjoy. No, and you and I have known quite a few people who have had real significant issues with drugs, and I personally can't think of a person who didn't end up in that situation because of just because they wanted to, is mainly because they were escaping something, and it was mostly due to childhood trauma or things that they had no control over that they just didn't know how to cope with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, people like Lindsay Lohan and Miley Cyrus, they're just gonna get way more attention for it because they're famous and because they have money and because they're in really popular shows and they're child actors and they're supposed to be doing that. And that's the other problem is oh, well, now they're adults and they're still supposed to be little kids, but they're also sex symbols at the same time. And it's this weird dynamic of they're supposed to be role models, they're supposed to be perfect, they're supposed to be innocent, but they're also supposed to be sexy, and we're supposed to be allowed to jerk off to them at 17 years old and all this weird shit. And it's just literally none of it makes any fucking sense. And then on top of that, we're all the public are complicit with the way that these people are being treated, and it's disgusting.
Well, it's especially gross when it comes to those child stars from any end, because in the Corey Feldman documentary they also talked about how the Coreys were made out to be sex symbols while they were still minors. But like we talked about with Britney, she was a known sex symbol at 16 and 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Lindsay Lohan and Bella Thorne and all these girls. And it's how, first of all, you're basically being abused by the public and being groomed by the public as well. And that in itself, how do you navigate that as a growing person?
Yeah, who's just developing and trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
But are, not allowed to do that because the public doesn't want them to.
Yeah.
It's truly disgusting how we, as a human population, treat, these child stars. Because it's like you're saying, not only are they being groomed in their private lives with, these people that they're supposed to trust, because as Corey Feldman was saying, it's usually, there's some for sure, but it's usually not the higher-ups, it's not the executives, it's the people who are directly in the child's life, the assistants, the managers, the producers, the PAs, the people who are directly in contact with them, the coaches, right? These are the people, and you see it in, not just in that industry, but you also see it with the priests and the Cub Scout leaders or whatever, and you see it with, teachers and sports coaches and people who are, it's gonna be the people who you
have
trust, have direct access, have a reason for kids to come to their house because they're quote unquote coaching them or showing them
trusted adults. Yeah,
they're showing them a new skill and oh, well, they need to sleep over because we're just giving lessons too long and all this weird shit. It's gonna be those fucking people. That makes the most fucking sense.
Yeah. Because people love to portray, like, especially sexual abuse as something that it's, like, it only happens in a dark alley by a stranger. When, like, the majority of the time, that's not how it works. Majority of the time, it's someone you know and you see on a regular basis.
Yeah. I think it's something like 98% of all childhood sexual abuse is done by a person that the child knows and trusts.
Yes.
And is also a trusted person of the family.
Yes.
Whether that be someone in the family or someone who's just very close to the family, like a neighbor, a family friend, or like someone who has, again, like other types of direct access, like teachers, coaches, in the acting world, PAs and things like that, like do have direct access, whatever. So yeah, it's usually someone like that. And then I think the other 2% is typically, then you have like the strangers, the kidnappers. And I think the largest portion of that is usually garages. So like public parking garages is like the largest
like
part.
Enclosed spaces.
Yeah,
but, like,
because
still
it's
stranger.
like easier. There's no cameras, blah blah.
Yeah.
But that's again 2% of all of the sexual abuse that happens is done by strangers in like dark alleyways or whatever. It's 98% that, or maybe no, I'm pretty sure it's 98%. Is done by people that you know.
Yeah.
And it sucks because then it's like, like, how do you protect kids, right? Like, how do you not have kids, like, go to school or, like, go, like, the people who have direct access are also people who, like, do need to have a part in the child's life for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, kids should be allowed to go to extracurricular activities, and they should have safe environments where they're able to go and do certain things. And I have mixed feelings about, like, whether or not we should even have child actors, because, like, I do understand, of course, the need for them to portray children in TV and stuff like that. But there's also, like, how is it even possible to create a safe environment or a safe working space for a child? Like, is it even something that could potentially even happen? Like, what would that even look like? Like, in all these documentaries, they're like, oh, well, we need to have a therapist on set. And it's like, is that really all it takes? Like, that's not enough.
No, for real.
So, but whatever, like, kind of to get back to the point, like, ultimately, if you're going to have kids on set, like, how do you screen these people to, like, make sure that they're not going to harm kids? And again, I think that, like, in the documentaries and the sets that we're looking at here, like, these people were doing it bright, open daylight, like, not even trying to hide it, right? So there is that where you could provide a system that makes it easier to report these people, but then you still do have people who are much quieter, who are able to really redirect and are very sneaky about it. And it's like, well, how do you get those people, and how do you keep kids safe from them? And it's just very difficult.
Yeah, and it, like, reminds me of like, especially, like, the more modern, like, Me Too and, like, feminist movements and stuff like that, where now people are complaining because they're like, well, like, everything's being reported as sexual harassment and, like, blah, 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 blah. But to me, I don't know. I feel like there's always going to be, a better way of handling any situation. Now, nothing really come out of it, versus all of these cases going unreported and people being harmed.
Yeah.
Like, I really do think that, like, yes, there are people who are going to be, like, quote unquote, like, overly sensitive. There are going to be people who, like, don't, like, on the other end of the spectrum, who don't see certain behaviors as issues. And truthfully, I feel like the only way to really move forward with it is going to just kind of have that, like, pendulum swing of, like, it's going to kind of veer to one side for a minute, and maybe it'll veer back, and, like, eventually we're gonna find some kind of middle ground. But, like, there has to be more done. And like we said before, like, I would much rather it be brought up way more often than it not being brought up at all and continue the way it is.
No, I absolutely agree with that, and it's like kind of unfortunate that that's the way that things go, but I do agree that, I mean, to be honest, like you said, I think that there does need to be an environment of like almost like hypervigilance and over reporting for a little while, just to be absolutely certain that these things are being sorted out and that people are being protected, because there's no reason that a child should have to be subjugated to that, especially just for like you said, like the entertainment of people. It's just kind of disgusting. And to kind of go back to like what we were saying before too, like it's disgusting how the public treats these people as well, and like how we're like so fucking obsessed with children. Like, it's just weird. It's really weird. And even, not even just children, but like the obsession that we have with celebrities, and like the fact that they're constantly being stalked and followed around by reporters and fans and this and that, like, it's just bizarre. Like, it's weird.
Bro,
it's
celebrity
weird thing.
culture is so strange. And it's like, okay, like, I understand, you know, the, like, teen girl who has a crush on the boy band, but, like, when grown adults have that much, like, involvement and, like, emotional attachment to people they just, like, watch on a fucking TV, like, it's mental illness, love.
Yeah.
Like,
Literally.
it's weird.
It's really
And, like,
weird.
as a society, it's so normalized. But, like,
yeah.
Does anyone ever, like, sit back and think about it? Like, it's so fucking bizarre to have, like, such an obsession over these people.
Yeah, and those are the cases where, like, we do need to bring, like, bullying back. Like,
Yes.
we need to bully people into, like, not stalking celebrities. Like, it's weird. And, again, like, it only feeds into this idea that, like, well, these people are already open to the public, so it's fine that we have them open to these predators, and it's just, well, like, whatever, like, you know, that's just how Hollywood is, and blah,
and well,
blah.
if you want to be famous, you gotta expect it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and
like,
it's
what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, and it's weird for, like, grown women, like,
Yes.
let alone, like, children, to be put
Yes.
into those situations. And, like Corey Feldman was saying, like, the casting couch is incredibly real, and it's incredibly real for children as well. Like, they're getting, like, special treatment because of, like, how they're being treated. And, like, again, like, that's something Amanda Bynes has talked about a lot. Like, she was given special treatment and given a show because she was being manipulated and tortured by Dean Shader. Yeah. And they didn't really touch on it in the documentary, but I am almost certain that there is, like, stuff out there about how she was abused and stuff like that. And it's, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you kind of, based on, like, the information that we've been given, like, you kind of have to assume, like, the ones that he saw as his favorites were his favorites for a reason, because they were giving him what he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's in no way to, like, victim blame, but it's, like, even if it's not directly stated, like, they were the ones that were abiding by his, like, desires.
Yeah, well, yeah, like, they were the ones who were, he was able to manipulate the most.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily victim blaming, it's just, like, what happened.
No, in terms of, like, I'm not, like, blaming them for what they did.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because it's, like, they were, like, literally pushed into that. And it, even in the documentary, they allude to how, like, Amanda's father basically was involved in that. Yes. And who knows, like, behind closed doors what was said and what was done and what transactions
Well, Amanda in her tweets said that he also abused her. Even if that wasn't, like, known maybe to, like, anyone else in the public. Yeah. Yeah, she said that, like, he was also one of her abusers. So, like, of course, like, not only is he, like, enabling the abuse, but he's partaking in it.
Yeah, and that's, like, the other issue that I think a lot of these people on, like, TikTok and stuff like that are not necessarily addressing, is the fact that, like, these kids are being passed around, and they're it's being, like, a transaction, and, like, these people are being partially, like, they're being, like, allowed to be in these situations and scenarios because other people are also, like, wanting a piece of the kids. You know what I mean? Like, not to be gross, but, like, that's part of it. Part of it is that, like,
that's why
this is a circle. This is a powerful ring of people who are all in on it.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, that's part of why, like, people are not speaking up. And, again, like, I don't want to, like, necessarily say, like, oh, like, you know, like, people should have, I don't know. Like, it's hard because I understand that, like, it is hard to come forward, especially when you yourself are being attacked and abused every day, whether it be, like, verbally, mentally, physically, whatever. But, and I also understand that it's very hard to come forward when no one's listening to you, and it's very hard to come forward when
you're being ostracized for
you're being ostracized or don't have anywhere to go because, like, again, a lot of these media outlets are all connected and know people, and, like, they're being, like, told not to run these stories by the people who are the abusers. And I do understand that it's hard, and I understand that it can't possibly be easy to come forward about this kind of stuff, but it is, like, all of our responsibilities to say something about it, whether it be, like, wherever you can get it out there. And, like, yeah, like, you probably are going to be attacked, and you probably are going to be told that you're lying or whatever, but, like, it's, I think, more important to tell the truth and protect people than anything else. And, like, again, like, I know that it's hard, and, you know, in the documentary as well, like, Corey Feldman literally got stabbed for, like, talking about all of this stuff and being open about the ring of pedophilia that's happening in Hollywood right now. And it is really scary, and I do totally get that, but it's also, like, more scary that more children are going to have to be harmed. Like, it just, that's scarier to me than, like, even being, like, stabbed, you know?
Absolutely.
So, but maybe that's just, I don't know, personal.
Because we have, like, morals and ethics.
Yeah. And I also think, personally, for us, like, we aren't as scared in the face of adversity as other people are sometimes.
This is true.
And, like, I do totally understand that. Again, like, I do get it. Like, I have sympathy for people, but I also just feel like, come on, man. Like, these are kids. These are kids. And you're watching them be abused on set. Like, how does that not break your fucking heart? And how do you not say anything or do anything? Or at least punch this guy in the fucking face.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'd break his goddamn nose.
For real. I would just, like, honestly, like, just drug him or something.
Perfect.
Like, I mean, you don't even have to, like, directly do anything. You can just kind of, like, slip one in.
Yeah. But listen, like, this is probably be super mean, but it probably would have taken, like, a couple horse pills to get Dan down the size of him during that era.
Oh my god. Should we have Dan on the pod?
Oh my god.
He did an interview with T-Bone.
Yeah, it's T-Bone.
I feel like we're all
fucking idiot.
You're right. T-Bone.
No, he's never gonna be on the podcast.
Let it out. But I'm sorry, but, like, if, like, he could get on, like, T-Bo's interview.
Yeah.
I feel like we're basically that level.
Yeah, you know,
we're that level of, like,
open casting call to Dan
X-list celebrity.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe W-list.
We're
somewhere
up.
Down the line.
We're moving up.
Yeah.
We're moving up in the world.
Every time we get another, like, spam email, I'm like, we're getting somewhere.
We're on our way.
We're on our way.
Exactly.
Some bot has come across us for a reason.
Exactly, because the bot found us in the algorithm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We're moving on up.
But, like, I don't know. Like, I get the people where it's like, you know, this is the career that you've wanted your whole life, and, you know, like, it's the top of the top, like, you finally get it into Hollywood, but, like,
yeah,
I don't know, I've just never been in their shoes, so I can't fully say yes or no that that's what I would do, because I've never had to do it to that extent, but I can just, like, hope and imagine that if I was faced in that predicament, that I wouldn't be like, well, I just don't want to be seen as a bad mom.
Yeah, no. That's, honestly, I have no sympathy for people who,
Like,
that's their excuses. Like,
bitch.
I
don't want my
wanna,
reputation to be ruined.
Yeah, no. And, like, I get that, it's a career that you've always wanted, blah, blah, but, like, that's a bad reason to not report this.
Yeah.
I mean more, like, I have sympathy for people who are scared and for
No, of
people who
course.
don't know, like, where to go or how to report, or they don't feel like they have anyone who's listening to
They're
them
not being
or whatever.
believed.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I have sympathy
that's the
for, like,
stuff.
Drake's dad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, those are the people I have sympathy for. And, Drake's dad really did do everything, at least from what I can tell, in his power to protect Drake from the abuse. And he even says later on that he was like, I was so happy that, like, you weren't the one who was abused, because he truly thought that he was kept away from Brian, and he ended up not being protected.
He ended up being the one, which...
Well, not the one, but one of the people.
The one in, like, the article that he sent, I guess.
The one that ended up getting him
getting him
sentenced
in jail.
to, like, it was, like, 6 months of probation.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Which is
Because that's the other
ridiculous.
thing, is that, like, well, spoiler, this is going to be part one of 2 parts, where we're going to talk about, like, the, like, psychology and stuff like that, and the studies behind this type of behavior in another episode. But, like, I don't know, there's just a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, there really is. And it's one of those things where it's like, where do we find the solution, or do we just, again, allow it to kind of even out once we...
Like, overcorrect it.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of the only way we can go from here.
Yeah. Is
to weed out as much as we can, and then allow it to kind of just, like, even out over time. But...
And, like, I think, honestly, one of the biggest things is not acceptance of the behavior, but acknowledgement of the behavior, and acknowledging how widespread it is.
Yeah.
And not just being like, oh, like, I would be able to spot a child predator if I saw one.
Yeah.
Because, like we talked about, that's not how it works.
Right.
Most of the time, you don't know until you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when, like, honestly, in case like this, where, like, I'm sorry, but, like, most of them had to have known about some of them. I think there was, like, the one, like, production assistant where, like, people genuinely just didn't know until he, like, acted. But when it comes to, like, Dan and Brian, like, people knew.
And he was, like, fucking petting them and having, like, again, like, them have massages on that. That's
like,
insane.
It's so obvious. And, like, that's the kind of stuff where, like, you can tell, or at least I feel like I can tell, that it's more of, like, they're probably getting, like, a power trip off of the fact that they can get away with that behavior publicly.
Yeah.
Than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is disgusting. And then, they, like, suffer basically no consequences besides some public shame, and only even that's happening now.
Yeah, for real. It's just truly heartbreaking, to be honest.
Is.
And I truly hope that these child actors can get the help that they deserve, and I truly hope that, like, more of this stuff comes out and that people do come to justice, whatever that ends up meaning.
Yeah.
Because I do think that we, as a society, need to come together and stand against this stuff and really protect children. Actually protect children.
No, that's the thing, is that, like, this goes so well with our last episode, because I feel like a lot of the, like, protecting children campaigns always end up being such, like, facades.
Bullshit.
And when it's, like, when you're actually, because, I'm sorry, I can bet that, like, some of these people who were faced with these situations would be the kind of people who would be like, yeah, let's, like, ban Pornhub and, like, ban abortions and stuff like that because of the children. But it's like, when you're really faced with a child who's in active fucking danger, nothing happens, no one wants to do anything, and it's like, well, now is your chance to protect children.
Yeah.
Now is your chance to really do something in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And look how many people actually do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why don't we get a move on with that?
Right. Yeah, like, you want to protect children, but, like, you want to do it in the, like, fucking stupidest
In this heroic
fucking
way.
Yeah. Where it's, like,
We get
your
your agenda
fucking
across.
cousins and your brothers and your neighbors and your whatever, like, these are the people that, like, you need to be calling out. Like, not, like, the fucking drag queen at, like, read-along drag night or whatever.
Who's wearing, like 8 layers of tights.
Yeah. Or, like, the book that mentions racism once or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, these are not the things that, like, are fucking harming kids. Like, it's the people that you're protecting and the people that you know are harming your kids. Because, like, not for nothing, like, there's definitely people who I understand, like, you just didn't know was going on, but, like, there's also situations, like, I've literally seen it with my own goddamn eyes where, like, adults will protect child predators or people who are just downright evil and creepy and then allow their kids to be, like, put into dangerous situations or put their kids directly into the dangerous situation themselves. Like, I've seen it happen. I've had it happen to me. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous and it's asinine. And those are the same people who are going to sit there and be like, blah, 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 abortion, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, bro, like, the fuck are you fucking talking about?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's so fucking ridiculous and it's so asinine. And, like, I just don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't understand the logic there whatsoever.
And it's funny, well, not funny, but it's funny that, like, it's just so hypocritical, but a lot of these people, like, won't even register how hypocritical they're being about it.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know, I feel like these are the kind of things where if you actually, like, sat back and thought about your stances, then I don't know that you'd have the same stances.
Well, that happens a lot, though. Like, a lot of times people will actually, like, look at, like, what they're actually fighting for, quote unquote, and be like, oh, I didn't realize that this was stupid. And then they're like, actually, I don't even believe in any of this. Yeah. And that's usually what happens. But it just, like, really throws me that, like, a lot of these movements end up gaining attention and gaining steam because they're, like, children and they're using them as, like
weaponizing children.
Yeah, like, they're using them as tools to just get what they want instead of caring about the fact that children are humans. And, I mean, this is going to get into a whole other topic ultimately, but, like, I just feel like most people, specifically in America, and I'm sure other parts in the world, but, like, I have seen the difference. Like, Americans just do not see children as human beings. Yeah. They see them as, like, tiny little dress-up dolls that they can, like, carry around and, like, accessorize, or they see them as, like, little things that they can play with and, like, have as, like, little, you know, like little dolls that they can put up on their little pedestal, and then, like, they don't actually do anything to create the children, to create a safe environment for the children, but also to, like, raise them into fully functioning human beings.
Well,
like,
it's funny because, like, that's not even, like, off topic, because that's literally what happens in, like, the entertainment industry. I mean, look at shit like Dance Moms. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, have you seen some of the outfits that they have those kids wearing and some of the dances they have them doing? Yeah. Like, it's literally, like, them in skimpy outfits dancing to sexual songs on TV at, like, 10 years old. And no one ever saw a problem with that.
They saw it as entertainment.
And, that's an issue.
They're toddlers in tiaras.
Like, that was the whole point, was that they were little dolls, and they didn't really have, not that they really didn't, they literally did not have any, like, autonomy over themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they had them, like, they were recording these children having, like, mental breakdowns at, like, 11 years old. Yeah. And putting it on fucking TLC for us to eat popcorn to. Like, that's so disturbing. And, like, that's weird even when it's, like, adult shows, but it's, like, genuinely disgusting when it's a child who doesn't first of all, like, really have the ability to consent to something like that, and also will never, until they're grown up, like, fully comprehend the, like, ramifications of something like that.
Yeah. And they have to live with it for the rest of their entire lives without ever choosing to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just absolutely disgusting, and it just like makes me so sick how people view and treat children here. Like, even like little things, like I follow this one advocate that's like specifically an advocate for children, and she talks about how, like, you know, even like bathrooms in America are not set up for children to access. Like, it's not easy for a child to like wash their hands and like use the toilet in a bathroom. And like, yeah, like that like just goes further to show how we don't even like accommodate children in the real world. And we don't understand like children are not little toys or dolls or things that you have in your house. Like, they are going to grow up into adults, and they are fully like human beings that you need to like actively raise and teach and grow. And, you know, I again have sympathy for parents, as I've said in other episodes, but at the end of the day, like, you're making the choice to grow a human being from like small to big, right? Like, they're gonna become adults, they're gonna go out into the world, and you have to prepare them for that. And like, that's part of like the thing that I feel like people don't get here, is that they're literally just treating kids as like these little like show things, and then are like, why are all these adults horrible? And it's because you didn't fucking raise them.
Yeah, you didn't raise them to be an adult.
Yeah, and like, I look at other cultures that I've had access to and that I've been able to like be, you know, either like an outsider to, but like also sort of a part of. Like, I just see how they treat children so differently, and how they actively have them as part of their like life and as their family, and they are raising them, you know, like as a family unit or as a community, and they're all like trying to help out and make sure that they understand things and learn lessons all together and stuff like that. And it's just a completely different thing than what we see here, and I think that that is reflected in our entertainment and in our TV culture, where you have like, you know, shows like Dance Moms or Toddlers and Tiaras or 19 Kids and Counting, where all these kids are just props. They're all just props. They're little show things that they get like danced around on stage, and then they're put away and not to be heard from again. But like,
I mean,
it's
you
just
see it
disgusting.
even with like family channels on YouTube and TikTok in like different ways, but it's still like, it's the same kind of thing where like, you know, and honestly, it's not to say one is better or worse, but there are obviously going to be less protections for like children on social media. That now, we're seeing the repercussions of children who were abused on TV, but just give it another couple years, we're already seeing the like repercussions of like the children of social media. And it's just going to be a vicious cycle unless we actually do something about it.
I mean, I follow this one TikToker who was a mommy blogger kid and had like all of her medical stuff put out online, where she didn't even know that it was happening. Like, I guess she sort of knew that her mom had a blog. I don't know if she knew exactly what was going on. And this was before video, so but she had like her first menstrual cycle put online and all this other stuff, and it really really affected her. And it's just really, really sad to see like how like traumatized she's been by like that kind of stuff. And like you're saying, I think in another couple of years we're gonna start hearing about a lot more of these kids coming forward and saying like, yeah, this was really fucked up. And I also did find it really, really interesting that around the same time that Quiet on Set was announced to premiere, a lot of people started paying a lot of attention to the channel Ren and Jacqueline. If you don't know, Ren is this little toddler that's really, really popular on TikTok. She has like over 1 million followers, I believe, in the 2 or 3 million or something like that. Maybe it's more or less, I don't really exactly know. But she is this little toddler that has her own TikTok channel, and it's almost always just her. Sometimes Jacqueline, her mom, is in it as well, but it's mainly just her. Supposedly there are other family members in this family, but it's usually just her on camera. And a lot of people have been calling her out because they are starting to see that she like is putting all this like really weirdly inappropriate content on her TikTok, and it's very similar to the stuff that we see with like Dan Schneider, where it's like,
I'm sorry, I just looked it up. It's at 17 million.
oh my god, 17? Oh my god, I did not know it was that big.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's
go
crazy.
on, but just for context.
Yeah, but it's very similar to the stuff that Dan Schneider was putting out in terms of like, you could sort of spin it in a way of it being innocent because like they're not directly saying anything sexual, but most of the stuff on the TikTok account is pretty inherently sexual. Like there's this one video that got really like hammered down because it was like the little girl eating a piece of gum, and I guess she swallows it or whatever, and she says like, "Oh, I swallowed it. Is that okay?" And it was very clearly like a lot of people said
staged.
Yeah,
I literally like it's one of her, mind you. It's like I think one of her pinned posts.
Yeah, it's one of the top ones, and I think it's one of the most viewed. And yeah, it's very coached, very staged. There's a lot of like the little pictures on the videos, like when you first click on her account, and a lot of them offer like inappropriate moments in the video or like just inappropriate poses. And then there's other videos where she's eating like pickles and bananas and lollipops and things like that, and it's just like a lot of stuff. And it's very similar again to like the stuff with Jan Schneider, where you could kind of make the argument that like, well, it's innocent and like you're the perv if you're the one who's like saying that this is inappropriate. But then at the same time you have like over 200,000 saves on like this little girl's posts, and
it's like when it's
weird.
like a one-off thing, it's different than when it's like a pattern. Because when it's a pattern, there's intent behind it,
and that's why like
it's curated.
Right. That's why like going back to like the Dan Schneider stuff, I don't understand how that wasn't screened, because like after like the like, you know, like 1 foot like skit is kind of whatever, and then after like it gets to like 5 and 10 and 20
and the logo is a fucking foot, like I feel like at that point,
like when does it become like weird, and like when do you say like, hey, people are gonna be like weirded out by this?
Yeah.
And like honestly, I mean, I guess,
well, that's what I don't understand. Like, when is enough? Like, when is it enough for you people?
Yeah.
Like, I understand. No, I mean, like, I can get when people have like one weird encounter and they're like, that's strange. But then, like, once you see it every fucking day and like it's constant, it's harsh, it's like you hear rumors. Like, at what point do you say enough is enough?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but like, how is that your every fucking day career? Which, like, mind you, these people are also the ones working, like, they're complaining about working, like, long, like, 16-hour days or whatever it is, like, 6 to 7 days a week. Like, you are there. It's not like this is a part-time thing where, like, maybe I just noticed something weird on my shift. Like, you're there with these people, like, day in and day out. Mm-hmm. Like, at what point do you not say, like, I have seen too many weird things happen, and I need to say something about it.
Yeah.
Because someone's being harmed.
And I will say that, like, that's a big tactic of, like, cults and stuff like that, too, is...
to normalize it?
Well, it's not just that, but also, like, to overwork people to the point where they're delirious. Like, doing 16-hour shifts, because one of the female writers was also saying that, like, Dan monopolized all of their time. So, like, when you're not at work, you're still with him. You're still hanging out with him. You still have to, like, be somewhere, like, whatever. Like, I don't know exactly what they were doing, if they were going out or if they were, like, keeping them at the, like, studio or what they were doing. But, like, he basically monopolizes all of your time, and that's, like, a huge cult tactic because it makes you delirious, and it makes you almost like compliant to whatever is going on because you just want to go home and like sleep.
Yeah.
And like that's all you're thinking about, so you just kind of like don't care about all the stuff going on. But I just feel like still when it comes to like a child's safety, that's where I'm like, I don't know, like
I feel like it's just different.
I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like different. And like again, I don't know exactly with the writers specifically how much they saw, but it's just like I don't know, like if you're seeing something weird going on with a child, like that's you have to say something. You have to. You have to say something.
Yeah.
That's our responsibility as like the public and as adults. We have to protect the children. We can't sit here and pretend like the laws are going to protect them, or like we have to stand up and say enough is enough. Like we have to be done with this.
Yeah.
Because like at some point it has to end. You know, like
or
we can't keep going on like this.
Dealt with to some extent.
Right. Like, but we can't just keep exploiting each other.
No.
Because, like, realistically, like, I mean, it just breeds, like, these people who cannot, like, either function in society or can't stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
And we're just allowing, like, all of these, like, quote-unquote powerful people to, like, continuously abuse all of us, whether it be indirectly or directly. Like, why are we allowing Hollywood executives to just, like, put this shit on TV, or to not allow, like, people of color or gay people on TV, or why are we allowing politicians to, like, pass these laws? Like, we have the power, like, as a numbered force, right? Like, we have the power to say, like, hey, this is enough. Like, we're not going to take this anymore. And we're not going to let you abuse us or our children. And if that's, like, the only message that you get from any of our podcast episodes or anything, that's what really matters, is the fact that we do have actual power and we need to, like, get our heads out of our fucking asses and use it.
Yeah. Bell on Earth stands with Pornhub, and Bell on Earth stands with children. And that's our message.
That's the tea.
That's the tea. And if you want to take that out of context,
goddamn,
do it. Okay, to be clear though, we don't stand for children on Pornhub in any regard.
Two separate stances.
Separate stances, but both very valid.
Yeah, true.
So, with that, I feel like this episode is dedicated to, honestly, like, all child entertainment.
Yeah.
People who have been abused or put in bad situations. Obviously, like, the ones on specifically Quiet on Set or in the Corey Feldman documentary, R.I.P. Corey Haim. Mm-hmm. But this really goes to anyone, like any child who's been manipulated or abused or taken advantage of in any regard.
Yeah.
Like, we stand with you, we see you, we hear you, and
we're going to keep fighting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were once children, too.
Right.
Everyone was once a fucking child.
And I wish that someone stood up for me, like, in certain situations. And I'm going to stand up for a child if, like, any time of day. And I also, like, want to say that, like, I know we were, like, joking or whatever about, like, Dan Schneider being on the pod. And to be honest, I'd love to roast him in person or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But
we'd go to jail after it, but we'd have him on the pod.
Yeah, true. But I do want to also say that, like, anyone who wants to tell their story or reach out to us, like, I know that this isn't, like, the biggest podcast on any platform, realistically, but we are, I think, very open to anyone who wants to tell their story about anything.
Yeah.
Really, and wants to get justice for what happened to them or whatever. Like, we're here to listen, and we're also here to share your story and give it a platform.
Absolutely. So, email us so we have someone other than bots and scammers in our DMs.
Yeah, that would be nice to have, like, one real email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's like trauma dumping.
Yeah, it's fine.
Dump your trauma.
We're used to it.
Yeah.
We're trauma dumpsters. Oh my god, that's a merch item. We have so much merch we have to make.
Instead of like a cum dumpster.
Yeah.
We're trauma dumpsters.
Oh my god.
Wow.
You're welcome.
All right, well, coming soon.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
All right. I think with that, there's only one thing left to say. Bye! Thank you for listening to Bell on Earth, the podcast. We hope that your minds have been expanded and your pussies have been opened.
Be sure to rate and follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music.
This podcast is brought to you by Free Studio Productions. It's hosted and produced by Cassidy and Casey Bell. Big thanks to our executive producer, Dark Benton.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for all of your content needs. See you later, haters.